The Sava region is one of 23 regions of Madagascar, located in the northeastern part of the island, in the province of Diego Suarez. Madagascar is the world's largest producer and exporter of vanilla, a beloved ingredient fondly referred to as the Queen of Spices within the region. Considered the vanilla capital of the world, the district of Antala is a Malagasy district in the Sava region, comprised of 14 rural communes, including the rural commune of Ansanuru. Ansanuru axis, along which the Ankavanana River flows, produces a third of Antala district's vanilla each year. Not far from there is where our story takes place. Slofoodgroup's trusted vanilla growers are located on plantations about 6 kilometers from the town of Antala. We visited these plantations to introduce you to every stage of Madagascar vanilla production. From the pollination of the vanilla orchids, harvesting and curing, to sorting and packaging of the vanilla beans. Vanilla production can last up to 11 months before being exported. On average, one vanilla plant produces 2 to 4 kilograms of green vanilla beans, and each plant produces only once per year. Because vanilla orchids only bloom once a year, careful monitoring is essential to ensure the pollination window of opportunity isn't missed. Pollination season starts in September and lasts until December. Vanilla flowers are pollinated by hand, using a small stick or needle to lift the membrane. This separates the flower's male and female organs, allowing pollen to fertilize the ovule. Each planter and his team performs this process more than 100 times a day on each vanilla plant. Depending on the density of the plantation, pollination can only take place in the morning when the flower opens. By afternoon, the flower will have wilted and can no longer be pollinated. Here's how we look after our vanilla field. We wake up very early at dawn to go and pollinate the vanilla flowers. It depends on the day. If the weather's fine, we have to pollinate in the morning. Because from 12 o'clock onwards, the flowers wither. Here in the bush, how do you pollinate the flower? There's one thing you move up and then down to make the crossing. There's a thing that you raise and then press down, but lightly, not too hard or too soft. Otherwise, if you press gently, it returns to its initial state. If you press very hard, you risk cutting it in two, and the crossover won't work. So you'll have to remove the flower, which will fall off by itself if the crossover isn't successful. When it rains a lot and there are flowers, you have to remove the flower because the inside is heavy from the water. You remove the flower from the vanilla plant because the flower will fall off by itself. That's how I work with the flowers in my vanilla field. There are some things you can't eat before going to pollinate the flowers. Things like jackfruit are to be avoided. It has consequences for vanilla. On a vanilla plant, even if there are several vines, even if there are several flowers, you mustn't pollinate all the flowers on the vine to make the pods grow and give beautiful pods. A maximum of 10 flowers should be pollinated per vine. In this way, the pods are fleshier and can grow well. If you pollinate all the flowers, you'll create disease on the vine, which will wilt. This is the process to follow for beautiful pods. You pollinate only 10 flowers per vine, and the rest, which you don't press, you remove so that you can pollinate them next time. As far as I'm concerned, right now it's time to cut the weeds in the vanilla field. Weed removal depends on the height of the weeds. Depending on the soil in the vanilla field, the weeds don't grow at the same rate. Ideally, weeds should be cut every 3 months. This is what happens in this kind of situation. Once the vanilla orchid is pollinated, the farmers aren't able to just sit back and wait for the beans to grow to maturity. The value of vanilla beans has unfortunately led to high levels of theft on vanilla plantations, meaning the farmers must stay close to their plants after pollination. The way to work vanilla is hard, extremely hard. For 3 months, the ideal thing to do is stay in your vanilla field after pollination. You don't dare go back to the village once you've finished pollinating. Because, first of all, there are the thieves who only observe us first, and the best thing is to stay in the vanilla fields. Even our rice growing activities have been abandoned. We only care about our vanilla. Vanilla work is hard, and it's the thieves who benefit from all our hard work. In all this, vanilla isn't easy. From the moment we plant it, we look after it until it can support our family. We always have to be there to look after it, and the best thing is not to leave it for 3 months, because thieves are not far away. In my vanilla field, I don't use any chemicals, just the natural methods we've never used since our ancestors. This has consequences for the vanilla and destroys the soil. In our field, we use fences to keep out animals such as poultry and cows, but above all, thieves. So we have to protect our fields from all that. If the vanilla orchid is successfully pollinated, light green vanilla beans will start to grow. They will be light green in color, and after about 9 months, they are ready to be harvested. Once the beans have moved past peak ripeness, the pods will start to split at the bottom, so it's important not to wait too long. Likewise, if the beans are harvested too soon, there is a higher risk that the beans will mold or ferment during preparation. The vanillin content will also be reduced in immature beans. Pods picked at maturity, i.e. 8 to 9 months after pollination, will have more abundant vanillin and aroma after ripening. So how do farmers know when the beans are ready to harvest? Once again, they must carefully monitor the crop. When the tips of the green vanilla beans start to turn slightly yellow in color, that is their cue to start harvesting the beans. The Malagasy government organizes the official green vanilla market in each locality, though, and each locality will have an official opening and closing date for their green vanilla season. The main condition for a farmer to validate his crop is the size of the pods. They must be at least 12 to 22 centimeters long, but of course, vanillin content is also extremely important. On average, Madagascar Vanilla contains between 1.5% and 2.5% vanillin. The pollination process can take up to 3 months to complete. The pods are already large but not yet mature. At harvest time, it takes about 9 months for the pods to mature. But for good quality pods, it's best to harvest as soon as the pods start to turn yellow on the vanilla plant. Because the pods have not all been pollinated at the same time, that's why they don't reach maturity at the same time. If you don't do it this way, the pods split in two, and if you wait too long to harvest them, they become vanilla cuts. As I said, the ideal is to harvest as and when the pods start to yellow, to have quality pods. But what happens is that all the beans are harvested at the same time because of vanilla thieves. Otherwise, the ideal is to harvest pod by pod, depending on ripening. But we have to harvest them at the same time to avoid having our vanilla stolen. Once the harvest is complete, the precious vanilla fruits are placed in the region's characteristic woven baskets. Carried on heads or shoulders, the freshly picked vanilla pods make their way along the paths and pirogues that lead to the village. Once transported to the village, they await the opening of the village market. Next comes the Green Vanilla Market, governed by a decree that formalizes the opening of the Green Vanilla campaign. The vanilla-producing communes and villages in the vanilla-producing districts are already abuzz with activity. Vanilla growers and collectors negotiate until an agreement is reached on the selling price. After the Green Vanilla Market is over, all the green vanilla beans are put into bags and transported by river or land to the town where they will go through the process that transforms them into the recognizable deep brown vanilla beans you are used to seeing.
Volany za pour aller solterina fogna président délégation spéciale zegny raha nagnampy zegny société Slofoodgroup mbô anototra rano madio zegny manomboka ny andro ty zegny mahafaka mihinagna rano madio tsy mampiasa le ranovovo zegny araka angatahiny tsy zipo zegny ny ranovovo antsika eto.
Freshly harvested vanilla beans are rigid and break in two easily. Because of this tendency, green vanilla beans must be scalded. Scalding makes the vanilla pod more flexible. This process also causes the vanilla pods to stop growing, triggering a reaction that enables the aromas to develop. in particular vanillin, which accounts for 90% of vanilla's flavor profile. This process involves filling large wicker baskets with freshly harvested and sorted beans, around 25 to 30 kilos per basket, and boil them in water at 65 degrees Celsius for 3 minutes. After the scalding stage comes the sweating of the pods. This is a very important step to vanilla curing. The part of the process in which vanilla beans begin to take on their beautiful brown hue. Sweating the beans leads to a loss of moisture, concentrating their flavors and allowing them to develop that sweet vanilla aroma. The vanilla beans must retain the heat of the scalding process while transitioning to the sweating stage. The still warm pods are placed in wooden boxes lined with several heating blankets to keep them warm for as long as possible. The large wooden box is then closed for 24 to 72 hours. At the end of the sweating process, vanilla beans take on a deep brown color. Next, they will enter the drying phase. Vanilla drying takes place in 2 stages: sun drying and shade drying. The sun and shade drying stages are very important for the development of the vanilla beans' aroma and color. The vanilla beans are spread out on blankets and exposed to the sun for 3 to 5 hours a day for several days, turning regularly to ensure even drying. They are not left in the sun all day, as the pod must not dry out completely. The vanilla must always maintain a certain level of humidity so that the aromatic transformation can take place properly. To preserve the integrity of the beans, they are only exposed to the sun for a few hours before being covered and stored under cover until the following day. After 10 to 15 days of sun drying, the vanilla beans move into the shade drying stage. Well ventilated and aired, the beans are left to dry in the shade for 1 to 2 months. During this stage, the vanilla beans will be regularly turned over and sorted. Drying allows the vanilla to continue transforming and developing its aromas, allowing the vanilla beans to emit moisture slowly, allows the aromas to properly develop. It also stabilizes the vanilla bean so as to prevent the spread of mold. Refining is the last stage in vanilla processing. Before the beans are sorted, classified, and readied for marketing at the start of the vanilla export campaign, they will be refined. Refining, also known as mise en malle, involves placing the vanilla beans in a wooden trunk lined with parchment paper, or, better still, kerosene papers. These papers protect the beans from the outside air, preventing mildew and preserving their aroma. The refining process not only further develops the aroma and color of the beans, but also increases their vanillin content. Sorting isn't a single step in the vanilla production, curing, and distribution processes, but rather an ongoing activity taking place throughout the journey. The first sorting takes place just before scalding, when the vanilla is still green. The beans are sorted according to length, ripeness, and whether or not they are split. The final sorting will occur just after the refining process. The beans are sorted according to size, moisture content, and suppleness, as well as the color or quality of the vanilla and whether or not they are split. Once sorted, the vanilla beans will be grouped into bunches and tied with raffia. They are then packed in a wooden crate or cardboard box before being exported. To prolong the pleasure of vanilla, part of the harvest is transformed into powder. Turning the beans into powder is a meticulous process. After drying in the sun, the beans are cut by hand into small, regular pieces. The cut pods are then ground in a dedicated modern machine to obtain a fine, homogeneous powder with a granulometry suited to all types of use. Carefully sorted and packaged, the vanilla beans are now ready for their journey. Each batch is accompanied by a certificate of origin, guaranteeing the quality and origin of the vanilla. This traceability is essential to preserve the reputation of this exceptional spice.